Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's me, Greg, and we're back again, this time with a video that lots of you were requesting. Yep, whether you're a born and raised Swede or you've just stumbled across the country Sweden and you know nothing more apart from the name, you've probably heard the rumours that Sweden is an expensive place to live. Yep, there's a common rumour that swirls around that the whole of Scandinavia is one of the most expensive places on the world to live and to work, and I've seen your comments, I've seen your calls. Today I'm going to answer that question for you to give us all some closure. Is Sweden really as expensive as we've heard? And to do that, I'm going to be drawing some comparisons with where I'm from, which of course you guys know by now is of course the UK. Simply put, is Sweden more expensive to live in than the UK, or is the reverse true? Time to find out. And before we start, just a little disclaimer for you guys. I'm not an economist. I can't verify the sources I'm using. This is just a little bit purely for fun. If you have more information, you can of course let people know in the comments below, and I'll be leaving the resources that I use for this video in my description so that you guys can investigate further if you want to. That said, let's find out which country is more expensive to live in. Okay then, I think we're ready to get started, and as you guys know, I'm from England, so I thought the best place to start this video would be to do like a generic country to country level comparison. So let's take a look, shall we? Okay, so to help me with this video, I'm using the website Numbeo, where you can compare everything from cost of living to quality of life to jobs to property. So let's dig in and see what they say about Sweden versus England. Okay, so here we are, cost of living comparison between the UK and Sweden. And at the top here, you've got a couple of different indices that we can use to kind of get a general impression for what's going on between these two countries. And something that sticks out for me straight away is this one right here. Grocery prices in Sweden are 24.44% higher than in the United Kingdom. Yeah, I've got to level with you here, guys. When I first arrived in Sweden, this is one of the first things I noticed. Grocery shopping is so expensive here. It's one of those things that when I go to do my weekly shop, I expect, you have an idea of how much you think you're going to spend based on what you usually spend over a period of years. Then I came to Sweden and that number got blown out of the park. I was spending tens of pounds equivalent more a week, and I really noticed the pinch in my wallet. So let's scroll down a bit and see what actually is it that we're spending that extra money on when it comes to our grocery shopping. Okay then, so if I just take a look at this general screen here, you can see a number of different produce, of course, and the comparison points, and then of course what the percentage difference is. Let's start with rice. If you buy 1 kilogram of white rice in the UK, you can probably expect to spend just over £1 on that. In equivalence, here in Sweden, you expect to spend just over £2, so about 25 crowns, 101.71% more. This is an interesting one. I'm not sure I can explain why that is. Why does it cost so much more for rice here? Oh, but wait a second, guys. It isn't just the rice. Look at that price for a white loaf of bread, 500 grams. It's going to cost you nearly 95% more here in Sweden than it would over in the UK. And that one's actually got me stumped, because anyone that knows anything about Sweden knows that they're really big into their baking here. In fact, at the beginning of the pandemic, one of the first things that went out of stock in all of our supermarkets was fresh yeast. So everyone's making their own bread. So why does it cost so much more in the shop? You would think they would need to compete. But yeah, apart from that, the differences aren't really that much. Hang on a second. Jesus, look at this. Lettuce. One head of lettuce. In the UK, you're looking at about 72 pence, about 8 crowns. Here in Sweden, 123% inflation on the price. You're spending nearly £2, nearly 20 crowns for one head of lettuce. I tell you what, I'm not convinced it's worth it. I like salad as much as the next person, but that's a lot of a price hike. Okay, but enough about groceries for a second. One thing that surprised me at the top of this page is that you see rent prices here in Sweden are on average about 14.55% lower than it would be in the UK. And this is an interesting one, because when you talk to a lot of Swedes, they talk about how expensive it is to rent, especially when it comes to the city centres. And of course, I'm excluding London and Stockholm here, because they're kind of microcosms of their own, and you can't really draw fair comparisons there. But on average, you expect to spend 15% more in the UK when renting a property than you would here in Sweden. Yeah, so if you wanted a big apartment in the city centre in the UK, you'd be expecting to spend nearly 15,000 crowns or £1,200 a month. In comparison, in Sweden, you're spending 10% less. And 10% a month is quite a lot when it adds up over a year, isn't it? That really could make the difference. Okay, guys, I'm starting to feel like it's hard to get down into the detail and really understand whether Sweden is expensive or cheap when you work at this country level. So I thought I'd take it down a step to the city level. And don't worry, guys, I'm going to try and be as fair as possible when I make this comparison to really give us a definitive answer to that question that we started today's video with. So I'm going to choose the biggest town in my home region, which is called Kent, and the town is called Maidstone, and it had about a population of 170,000 at last count in 2019. So yeah, bear in mind that was the biggest city in my home region. And then in Sweden, I live in a region that's called Östergötland on the east coast. So again, I'm going to choose the biggest town in this region, which is called Linköping. And Linköping had a population of about 160,000 the last time they did a count at the beginning of 2019. Okay, so straight away I'm noticing those indices at the top again. Everything has gone green. Yep, surprisingly, even our friends in the grocery business have turned green. It's 4.12% lower per shop in Linköping than it would be in Maidstone. Okay, well that's me told, because I was convinced it was cheaper to shop in Kent than it would be to shop in Östergötland. Apparently I'm wrong. But of course this is all relative. What really matters is how much you're earning in each of these places. So to try and be as fair as possible, I'm going to go into Numbeo, I'm going to change their default numbers and replace it with the average salary in Maidstone, Kent, which is about £28,000 per year. That's about £2,300 before tax, if my maths is good, each month, which equates to somewhere in the region of about £27,000 per month in salary. So let's plug that in now. So I'm going to change the amount in calculation terms, and I said it was about £2,300 per month in Maidstone. Let's see what that does to these figures. Okay, let's start in the hospitality and entertainment sector. Right here we see restaurant prices. So if you go out for an inexpensive meal in both of these towns, we've got a price of what that would cost, and this is an American site, so my assumption here is that when they say meal, they mean one course, because some of the figures here are quite astonishing. They say that you could pay about £14 for that course in Maidstone versus £8.57 in Linköping, which is about 100 crowns. I'm not convinced, actually. That doesn't sound right, but they say that's the numbers, so that's what we've got to go with, and that is a 38% difference. So of course these are the numbers that I've got to go on, and interestingly enough, Numbeo is telling me that if I went out for a meal in Linköping, I could expect to spend nearly 40% less on average than I would for the same inexpensive meal in Maidstone. That's really interesting. I'm not sure I entirely believe it, but having said that, there are a lot of deals in Sweden when it comes to after work or lunchtime buffets where you can expect to spend 70, 80 crowns and get almost like a slap-up meal. You get, you know, your bread, you get your salad, you get your main course, sometimes a dessert and coffee as well. So maybe that kind of averages it out and does mean that the average would be around 100 crowns per inexpensive meal at a restaurant. But either way, I'm astonished. But I know you guys are dying to know what's happening over in the food sector, so let's go back to the market section right here. Let's see what's happened to our friend the rice. Still 50% more expensive here in Linköping than it would be in Maidstone, but that is a huge difference on the average at the country level. Okay, so one area that we haven't explored yet is transportation, and Jesus, there's a lot of red here. I am not surprised at all. So let's dig into this a little bit further. So if you want to book a taxi here in Linköping, you would expect the starting fee to be about 67.5 crowns. That is, oh my gosh, 92% more than if you were doing the same start taxi in Maidstone. And per kilometre, you're looking at 10% more on your taxi fee in Linköping than in Maidstone as well. And I have to give kudos to the transportation authorities here in Region Östergötland, because I've got to say it is really cheap to get around. I think this is a common factor across Sweden, but of course I can only use my own comparison point here for today. But yeah, I've got to say, like, when it comes to getting a train, or when it comes to commuting, it's a lot cheaper here, particularly on the season level or the monthly level. I used to commute every day to London when I lived in Kent, and let me tell you what, you really feel the pinch in your pocket each month. So I was not surprised to see how much cheaper it was here. What I'm also learning today is that I should not be a financial advisor. Apparently that's not the way forward in my career. But anyway, if we look at childcare here, this is a real saving point, and this is something that I don't think a lot of people that come to Sweden know about unless they have children. And as someone that doesn't have children, I've got to admit, this was something that surprised me. Per child, per month, for a kindergarten or preschool space, in Maidstone it costs about £754. In Linköping it's 84, nearly 85% cheaper. It would cost you £116 for the month. And I'm sure there's like some state subsidies and bursaries and things like that that play into why this is so cheap, but when you really break that down, can you imagine how much you're getting for your money when it comes to childcare? If for 1 month someone will look after your child for you for just over £100, that's your weekly grocery shop. But let me tell you what, where you're winning when it comes to childcare, you're not winning when they get a bit older and they want some new clothes, because look at the clothing and shoes section, there's a lot of red here. If we just take the jeans as an example, one pair of jeans, Levi's or equivalent, is going to be 36% more expensive in Linköping than it is in Maidstone. So a couple of kids down the line, that can get a little bit pricey. But that still doesn't answer my base question here, which is how much am I actually getting for my money? Well, at the top of the page, we have a really useful key here that tells us how much you get for your money in Linköping versus in Maidstone. So let's have a look. You would need to spend around £2,100, which is about 24.9, nearly 25,000 crowns in Linköping to maintain the same standard of living that you would get for £2,300 in Maidstone, assuming that you're renting in both cities. Okay, so if I live in Linköping, I'm saving £150 for the same quality of life that I would get if I moved to Maidstone. That's really interesting. I'm quite surprised about that. Okay, so maybe Sweden isn't as expensive as people say. And of course, you remember when we started this city-to-city comparison, I mentioned that I chose the two towns that I'd chosen because they are the biggest in their regions. But now I'm wondering, if it's so much cheaper for me to live in Linköping than it is for me to live in Maidstone, where do I have to live in the UK to have to spend the same for my quality of life, or as, comparably as I can, to the quality of life that I would get for my money in Linköping? Let's check it out. It's all right, guys, I saved you the time and the pain. I did a lot of research to find out which city in the UK would I spend the same for the same quality of life as Linköping, so that you guys don't have to sit and watch it. And the closest that I could get was actually also in the same region as Maidstone, so also in my home region, a city called Canterbury. So let's find that on the list. Here it is. And if we compare those two, let's see what happens. Yep, so as you'll see here, you would need to spend around £2,310 or 26.955 thousand crowns in Linköping to maintain the same standard of living that you would have for £2,300 in Canterbury. You know what, guys? I really don't think we can get a closer comparison than this. £10 difference for the same standard of life, Linköping and Canterbury. Well, there you have it, guys. It turns out that Sweden isn't as expensive as you first thought. Actually, you can spend the same amount of money or fairly similar amounts of money in the UK for the same standard of living. There are some subtle differences when it comes to groceries and things like that, but actually on balance, it's kind of the same money. Now I'm really intrigued what you guys think, so you've got to let me know in the comments below. Was there anything that surprised you? Was there anything you thought would be cheaper? Cough, cough, Mr. Lettuce. Let me know down there, and then, of course, if you can explain some of the differences in prices that I talked about, why, for example, rice is more expensive in Sweden than it would be in England, I would love to hear. It would be really cool to understand, where that comes from. But that is all I have time for today. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. It was a really hotly requested one. If there's something else you would like to see me cover next time, again, let me know in the comments below and I will add it to my list and see if I can get around to that one for you soon, so that you're ready when those new videos come out. I would really love it if you could subscribe and turn on the notification bell. That way you'll be the first person to know as soon as a new video comes out, and we can have a new conversation again very, very soon. But as I say, that is it for me today. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. Really looking forward to hear what you guys say in the comments down below. And yeah, I guess I'll just say I hope you have a really awesome day and we'll talk again soon. Bye, guys.